Hi everyone, it's Barry here from Mitosu Crafts. Thank you for joining me today and thank you for joining me for our Stamp Around UK video hop. The theme for this month is, and it's an interesting one actually, it's Case Another Demonstrator, so which is right up my street because I really enjoy casing other demonstrators, and now I've got a good excuse to do it as well. So I have, I'm actually going to be casing two demonstrators tonight. So the first one is going to be Stesha Bloodheart. She did a lovely one using this particular stamp set here, the Rays of Light, pairing it with the rhinos. And I'm also going to be casing two actually, and I'm going to be casing Carrie Buckham from Two Big Girls Crafting. I'll show you her card in the end, but I'm going to be casing her technique, which she did. So I'm going to be pairing the two together. So Stesha and Carrie going to be pairing their two ideas to create the one idea. So that's what I love about casing. So if you're unsure on what casing is, case is copy and selectively edit or copy and share everything. So it gives you kind of creative license to do what you want to do really. But I will I'll show you a picture of Carrie's card at the end, or a copy of it because I've got one here, and I will pop a link to Stesha's original post as well, so you can see the original idea which I had and what she did with it. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I'll just talk you through the products I'm going to be using first. So first things first, as you can see, is I'm going to be using the Rays of Light stamp set, which is this one here. Really lovely and works perfectly with the technique I'm going to show you. I'm going to be pairing that with a sentiment here from the Something Fancy. Now I'm just going to be using this Happy Birthday sentiment, and it comes with some lovely dies which is going to cut that out as well. And I'm also going to be doing the Grassy Grove. I'm not going to be using the stamp set on this, but I just wanted to show it to you anyway, because it does come with a stamp set, a coordinated stamp set, but I'm going to be using one of the dies from this one, so I'll show you that one as and when I come to it. Colour wise, I'm going to be using Polished Pink, and I'm going to be using Pumpkin Pie, those ones. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of heat embossing as well with some white heat embossing. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And obviously I've got my two brushes here, one for my orange and one for my pink, ready to do a little bit of blending for the background. So that's the products I'm going to be using. So we'll crack on. But first things first, remember this is a blog hop. This is a video hop. So there's lots of us which have created videos where we have all cased other designers. So links to everyone else can be found down below in the description. So do please make sure you go and check them out as well at the end. Going to see what other ideas they have come up with and their interpretation of a case. So that's it. Let's crack on and let's show you some, I hope, a very fun technique, something you may not have seen for a while or done. So let's crack on and see how we get on. Okay, so for the cardstock, which you will need one piece of black cardstock for your card base. So this is measuring 14 centimeters by 21 centimeters, scored in half at 10.5 centimeters. You will need another piece of black here measuring 9.5 centimeters by 14. And a bit of black paper for stamping your sentiment, so a bit of scrap paper for that one there. You'll also need a white piece of paper, so some basic white here measuring 14 centimeters by 10.5. This is bigger than we need. We will be cutting this down afterwards to 13 centimeters by 9 centimeters, but we're going to be doing our blending first and then cutting it down to size, and that way we can cut and trim off where we want to and any imperfections which we want. So that's the bits which you will need, so just pop those to one side. I've also got myself a bit of copy paper here, so a bit of white paper just for blending. Okay, so that's so I'm not going to get my lovely table dirty. So I'm going to pop that on there and I'm going to start blending this background with some Pumpkin Pie, and I have also got some Polished Pink. Polished Pink is a retiring colour, so if this isn't available in our online shop at the time of you watching this, there will be some. You just swap it out for an alternative pink, and you will be fine as well. But this is Polished Pink at the moment, and I've got Pumpkin Pie. So I'm going to start off with my Pumpkin Pie, and I'm going to create. I'm going to kind of create a band across the top. So I'm going to go in here. And just bring this down. So I'm just going to blend this out, and then I'm going to do the same with the pink, like this here, and I'm going to then bring the pink in along the bottom. So I'm just going to work on those two colours there now and just build that up. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm now just going to work this through and build these colours and layer them up. So there we have it. That there is my blended background. Now it looks a little bit patchy at the moment, obviously on camera, but that's absolutely fine because the next technique which I'm going to do is obviously it will start to take away any imperfections which you've got. Are there any streaks? So don't be worried about this technique if you've got streaks, if you've got marks on it. So I've got a fingerprint mark going on down here. It's a little bit lighter up there. Don't worry about that. For this technique, it's going to actually be perfect for this. Alright, so just pop that onto one side. What you want to do is, the way that we have done this, just to give you a little bit more control, if you grab your stamp case and open it up, and grab yourself some kitchen towel or some paper towel of some kind. Okay, and we're going to just pop this inside the stamp case like that, and we are just going to grab ourselves our water spritzer, okay, and we're just going to saturate this here. Just make sure we don't get it on any of our stamped images we've already done. And I'm just going to spritz this in. You can do this other ways. You just want to kind of make a wet pad. And you've got a little bit more control if you're using the spritzer as well. So you kind of got yourself a wet pad. Grab yourself your stamp, and you want to then just stamp this in. So just have a little bit of a think about where you're going to do this. We're going to stamp this down onto that bit of paper in a moment. So my sun is here, so I need to make sure I'm happy with the positioning, because I want my sun to go in this kind of area right here. So just make sure you're just worrying about looking at your orientation. So I'm just going to stamp this down onto this. You can spritz directly onto the stamp if you wanted to, but with this technique you just get a bit more of an even control and you get a nice layer going across everything. So it's just a way of controlling the water a little bit more, rather than it just being too much over here and not enough over here. So you're going to get a nice even spread. So just stamp that down onto that bit of kitchen towel so you've got yourself a nice layer. Pop that to one side, bring over your piece again, and we are then just going to then just position this over the top and stamp down. Okay, just hold that down a few seconds, let that water absorb into that card, and then take it off. You're going to get different effects every time you do this, and you can see the water has kind of pulled a little bit away here. Hasn't quite gone as much as I had hoped. But what we're going to do, I'm going to see, because I thought that the first time round I did it and it didn't work, look thing. So I'm just going to dry this off with the heat tool for a moment. So it's not as well as I wanted it to be. So I'm just going to, feeling quite confident that I'm going to get this, I can do this a bit wetter and in the same position. Just going to pop some more water on that. So I've kind of emptied an entire spritzer on this. I kind of want it wet, really quite wet. Let's try that again. I'm going to be brave and over the top and see how this works. That's better. So more water, you can see there the technique which that has given us. It has then pulled that away. So fortunately I was lucky enough that I've lined it up pretty much and it's actually the same position, so I'm happy with that. But I would say if you're going to do this the first time round and you haven't started already, do have that wetter than I had it initially. So have it quite soggy, but it's a way of you controlling it. I'm just going to heat set this here, and this will then hopefully pull some of the colour out a little bit more. there we have it. You can see that it's quite a fun technique. So the ink is just on the background, and then we've used the water here to pull some of that colour out to give us these rays of light. Alright, so that's that one. What we want to do now is, now that this is dry, because I've heat set it, we can cut this down. So remember, we want to cut this down to 13.9 centimetres. So I'm now just going to have a little look about where I want to cut off. So I'm going to take off maybe a little bit from this end here, and then take it from this side. And then I need to take off a little bit at the bottom. Maybe a little bit from the top. I'll probably then come more from the bottom again, like that. Okay, so I've now just cut that down to size and taken off any imperfections which are around the outside. Okay, so that's the technique with the rays of light stamp set and the water, and to lift off your colour with your blending. Alright, next thing what we want to do is we want to take our piece of cardstock here. This is the one which was measuring, the black piece which was measuring 14 by 9.5, and we want to die cut this. So the die from the Grassy Grove is this one right here. So it's going to be these nice little tree silhouette, and I'm going to create this lovely silhouette. So just run that one through your die cutting machine like this, and in true Blue Peter style, here's one I did earlier. So this is what you will be left with, all right? And then that there is then going to create and go over the top of this, and we've kind of created this lovely little sunset behind with the rays of light coming out right there. So we can go ahead and we can stick that on with some dimensionals. So some dimensionals on the back of this. Mini dimensionals will work best for this one because you've got some tiny spaces, and we will just go ahead and just stick those on. So once we've popped our dimensionals on the back there, and we'll take the backing paper off, we will then stick this to this one. Just obviously position as and where you need to. You do have a little bit of wiggle room on there. So if you want to bring this, if you want to bring the sun in a little bit more, you can position it. So just have a little bit of a think about where you're going to do that. And that there is that. You can see I was a little bit wonky on the back, which is why if we start off with something a little bit smaller, we've got a little bit of wiggle room in there as well if need be. If you want to go exactly the same size, you can do, but if you may end up with something sticking out. So a little bit smaller just gives you a little bit more room to play with. So that's that. And what we're going to do is this is then going to get stuck directly down onto the black bit of cardstock. So we're going to tone on tone here, so black on black. And the colour obviously is coming from that inked background. And that's that. Okay, so already it looks really, really nice. Obviously what we're going to do now is just to finish this off is just pop a sentiment on this. So taking your black piece here, which was your scrap from earlier on, I'm going to grab myself my embossing buddy, my white stamping powder, and my powder here, so I'm going to be able to pour the powder in. So just going to prepare my cardstock first with my embossing buddy so I can take away any stick. And I'm going to be using the sentiment again, so this is from the, I've forgotten what it is, what is it called? Something Fancy stamp set. So this is the happy birthday from the Something Fancy. I'm completely blank then. And we're just going to stamp this down. So it's quite odd me saying this. It's from the Something Fancy stamp set, but I like this sentiment because it isn't fancy. It's quite a plain, simple sentiment, but I really like it. So we're just going to stamp this in the middle here, allowing some room for some die cutting. And we will then take our powder. We will take our white powder and pop this on here. Okay, and that's now transferred that powder onto that for the sentiment. That's it. So we're just going to heat set that one, and then I'm going to then die cut it using the die here. This one from the Something Fancy dies. That's going to get cut right there. So I'm just going to heat set and die cut that for you. So that there is my sentiment, which again I've done in the white powder, and I've die cut out using that lovely die from the Something Fancy. and we're just going to stick this over the top of these trees over on this side. So I'm not going to add any more height to it. So what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on the tree trunks. And we will then stick that over the top like that. And we don't actually need much else to this card. Well, I'm not going to add anything else to this, apart from maybe a white piece which is going to go in the middle, because again we can't, obviously it's black unless you've got a white pen you can write on it, but we will just finish this off with a white piece of cardstock in the middle. And if you wanted to, you've got these scraps which you've got right here. If you've got one which is big enough, depending on how you cut it, can go along the bottom like that in there quite nicely. So that's one way which you can finish off if you wanted to use your scraps. So there we have it. That there is my card, casing 2 demonstrators, so Stesha Bloodheart and Carrie Buckham from Two Big Girls Crafting. That this is a take on both of their things, so a case on the technique and a case on a style very similar, using this lovely silhouette style from Stesha. And I'm really happy with how that's come out. So remember, I'll pop a link to Stesha down below, but obviously below everyone else in the blog hop, in the video hop. I keep saying blog hop, but this here was the original card which we got from Carrie. Okay, so the idea as well with doing some blending, and the sentiments has been heat embossed in black, but again you've got this water thing on here as well. So, and you've got this it's really pulled. It's actually, I like the way this has gone, so I might have to just ask her exactly again how she did this, because it's come out slightly different to how mine did, but really love the technique on that one. And I think it's done it justice over here as well, especially with those rays of light, hence the name of the stamp set. And that's that. So do please let me know what you think about this, and please give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed today's video and enjoyed the rest of the hop. And remember, you can purchase stuff from us via our online shop. Links to our online shop can be found down below as well, with everything else which you need. And yes, do remember to use the current host code if you do shop with us, and if it's over a certain amount, then you will receive a tutorial from us as well, a free tutorial, which is something which Jay does. So yes, so a little bit of a treat for you if you do. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. Do enjoy the rest of the hop, and thank you so much for joining us. That there is that one. I love it. Really happy with how that's come out. I hope you do too. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.